Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. It is the end of the week. We're going to do what we always do, create a request, which is where a band gets in contact with me and says, hey, do you mind checking out our stuff? And I say, let's do it. I really love creative requests. We find some really cool stuff here. Today we have Monosphere, a post-metalcore band from Germany. Says I just stumbled over your reaction videos and they're really entertaining and the composer aspect is interesting. We wondered if you'd be open to react to our new single I Am in Control Part 1 featuring the Hirsch Effekt. Some interesting stuff and we'd love to see your reaction. So let's get into this. It doesn't feature all of the Hirsch Effekt. It says that it features Nils Wittrock from the Hirsch Effekt. So, let's see what Monosphere is bringing to the table. Just getting right into it. Almost has a black metal vibe to the guitar melody. Ooh, yeah. Got rid of the quarter and went triplet on every instrument there. I like how the bass is driving the melody here. Yeah. Yeah, shifting off the hi-hat for that ride to really open up the section, which I was a little concerned about the hi-hat feeling a little too tight. That bass tone too. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of Muse vocally, with just kind of picking a note and then just like sitting real close to it. Oh dang, we're over already? I wonder, Nils is he's one of the, I was gonna say he's one of the vocalists for Hirsch Effekt, but I think everybody does vocals in that group. Um, I I don't know that I picked out what Nils was doing though, whether it was guitar work or vocals. Huh. I really hope that Nils wasn't the clean vocals at the end, which would indicate that possibly they don't have a clean vocalist and that the rest of their stuff would not have a similar ebb and flow, a similar contrasting element. Because the contrast, I think, was beautiful. Definitely something that would draw me to them. Is that almost mathy kind of chaotic element at the beginning, Mathcore, paired with this upbeat, chill, syncopated ending, right? The contrast between those two ideas is something that I'm immediately drawn to with this band, and I would be a little disappointed to find out that they don't do clean vocals in other tracks. So yeah, man, that does intrigue me though. Like, I'm not a huge Hirsch Effekt fan. I enjoy what I've heard, but I've only heard two songs. But yeah, it's very interesting that I couldn't pick out necessarily where Nils was being featured on this. Um, so let's dive into some specifics here. First of all, time signature, right? It was all over the place. Or was it? No, actually, I counted 4/4 in every section of this song, which is really fascinating with how many sections feel like they're not. There's a lot of parts of this track that have a polyrhythmic concept going on, and the instruments that are given the spotlight are not necessarily delivering a rhythmic structure that feels like it emphasizes a 4. A lot of these patterns do resolve to 4/4 and 2 or 4 bar phrases. And there are some times where we enter something a bit more polyrhythmic, where we do have a resolution into the 4/4 in each bar, but it's usually very syncopated against what the rest of the band is playing. One time that very easily can be heard, this style of rhythmic structure is, I think it was the third section. There's a crash cymbal, maybe a China cymbal, that's right panned, and it's just like hitting on every beat. And it's a bit of a slower tempo, which I think is also interesting, given how fast a lot of the opening of the song feels. It's a relatively chill tempo. But yeah, that's one of those instances where if you tune into what the cymbals are doing, you're gonna feel the 4/4. Whereas with a lot of the other sections, it feels like it might be even something that isn't the like a metronome style of playing, where you can actually feel the 4/4 isn't present in any of the instruments. It's something that you have to make up in your head and feel the 4/4. But I did count every section of this track in 4, which is just one, it's phenomenal that they really pushed and stretched what 4/4 could do, but also it's just kind of bonkers to go about writing a song like that. And just kind of taking at it from that perspective, that it would have been a lot easier to write it in something else, but it would have probably ended up feeling less impressive. They went for the harder task, and got to give them props for that. Speaking of that, structurally, if we step aside from the rhythmic structure and look at it more from a musical structure, we'll find that the song is split into two parts, right? The first half is mathy and chaotic. The second half is chill, and upbeat. There's a lot of upbeat emphasis, sort of like ska or reggae would have. And so I want to particularly look at the first half first, and we'll look at the second half second, which just, it makes sense, right? Even when I say it, like, man, Bryan, you're just being redundant. Yeah, I'm being redundant. It's because it makes sense. So the first half is super mathy, and it's broken up into three ideas, I think, that we kind of cycle around between. I don't remember the pattern specifically. Actually, I think there were more, because there were some one-off sections, like the growling part, that was around for like 8 bars or something before it never came back. So yeah, I mean, in pure mathcore fashion, we have a lot of ideas being thrown at us rather quickly, jumping between several different ideas, just this rapid fire explosion of concepts and rhythmic structures and melody lines. Um, and it does what I think it's supposed to do, which is be controlled chaos. I don't know that I have a lot to speak on this section about. I do enjoy a lot of the variety in it though, right? And that's, I mean, that just comes with with mathcore stuff as a whole, is that well, actually in a lot of mathcore, I don't think we've had a vocal variety. This one we did. We had 3 or 4 different kinds of harsh vocals that we heard there as they were shifting between different sounds. The vocalist would also change up if they're doing more of a higher pitched harsh, or maybe a growl or a lower pitched fry or something like that. There's a lot of really cool variety in there. I love the constant back and forth between rhythmic emphasis and melodic emphasis. There were some sections where both guitars and the bass and the drums were all doing this highly rhythmic stuff, sometimes in tandem with each other, sometimes in opposition to create this polyrhythmic idea, create polyrhythmic ideas. Um, but those would be juxtaposed with ideas that would still kind of have rhythmic syncopation to them, but not be as chaotic, so that there could be a melody line that plays on top of them, which usually the right pan guitar took lead on. Um, and being given these melody lines, I think, is necessary for these sections to really breathe and come alive, because the vocalist, who would typically be given the melody slot, the spotlight, isn't. Basically being a lot of growls, it is more of a rhythmic instrument that comes out. So in the sections where we have harsh vocals and super syncopated rhythmic stuff from all instruments, these sections are heavily rhythmic and feature pretty much zero rhythmic structure. If there is a stronger rhythmic element, it is playing secondary to the or sorry, if there is a strong melodic section, it is playing second to the rhythmic components of these sections. The rhythm is what is what's being given spotlight here, not any specific instrument or any specific melody, but the rhythms that all the instruments are bringing together at the same time. That's the spotlight. And then to contrast that with some sections that still keep up the rhythmic ideas, you can kind of think of them in more of like a djenty fashion, something like man, what's that group that does really great groovy stuff, and then puts like vocal stuff on top of it though? I can't think of their name. Tesseract. That's the band. Yeah, so sort of like a Tesseract idea, where they get these super syncopated, groovy rhythms that kind of form a foundation. They kind of have some chordal things moving across them as well, and then a lead guitar line that'll take melody. And we sort of jump back and forth between these two ideas, not necessarily the same sections. It's not like, we have section A and then section B and then section A and then section B. No, we just jump back and forth between rhythmically oriented ideas, and then sections that are still rhythmically interesting but have a melody line on top of it. And we bounce around between a few of these. And like I said, there's a few sections in here, 3 or 4 different sections, I think, which is just, it's keeping up with that mathcore, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. If it doesn't work, we'll be out of it in 8 bars anyways kind of mentality of that controlled chaos. And I think it's interesting that we have the micro juxtaposition going on, where we contrast these two styles in the first half, but then when you look at it on a higher level, we're also contrasting the first half of the song with the second half of the song, which brings in a bunch of interesting ideas. Like I said, we have this offbeat accented idea that's kind of ska or reggae inspired, and it has this levity because of that, this bounciness to it. We have these clean vocals that are just providing this beautiful element on top of these moving melody lines. We have strong chordal structures going on here. And it's just this chill, laid back, positive vibe, which is so different from that chaotic element we had at the beginning. Even if you ignore the constant shifting of sections, even if you ignore the harsh transitions between all of these sections, the overall vibe is very aggressive, right? There's a lot of stuff being thrown at you. Um, the instruments are loud. They have a lot of edge to them, a lot of fuzziness, that metal edge on these instruments. And there's a lot of bassiness going on, right? A lot of I don't know if it's a down tuning or if they just like EQ the low end on these guitars up a bit. But it's this very grounded, weighty assault. And when we come to this last section, it feels like the instruments are brighter. Maybe they're EQ'd for more treble. We have these soaring melody lines. We have a clean vocal delivery that's also providing some melody lines. There's some nice counterpoint going on there. The bass is very present, not just in not just being this audible low end, but providing some bass lines as well. And the drums have kind of calmed down a little bit and chilled out and just kind of moved into a bit of a groove rather than these wildly syncopated polyrhythmic ideas. And just all this contrast is it's really interesting to listen to one band pulled together. It's one thing for me to listen to a mathcore group that moves through a lot of ideas that are all, different in their nuance, but all still aggressive, to a band that can pull off both this chill, upbeat idea plus the aggressive heaviness of the metal, and do so with such finesse that it feels like both styles are extremely natural to them. So yeah, just the whole contrasting element here I think is phenomenal. Uh, Beautiful bass tone, beautiful guitar tones, great guitar licks, lots of vocal variety, and then just the drummer too just killed it, both with sort of the groovy or the groovy stuff and the syncopated polymetric stuff. So I'm going to take a second, dive into the lyrics, and see what I can pull out of this. And the song seems to be about coming to terms with some of the worst parts about yourself and making the changes necessary to overcome them, I think. It speaks about these bad habits or these bad personality traits as a demonic presence in a sort. It opens up. It says black tendrils emerging from the ground are grasping me. They form strings around my wrists and my back is pressed against the door. Moving into the next stanza, really states what's happening here. I accept the consequences. I need to carry the weight on my back right now. I'm facing the worst part of me. There's no turning back. So, I mean, really laying this out right here. If you ain't figured it out yet, we're letting you know this is about facing the worst part of yourself. Um, and it seems up until the final stanza that it's this darker part, this worst part of yourself is taking over, and then the second to last stanza though, it says something that I'm not completely sure of. I'm going to omit the first line of the stanza, read the rest of it, and then come back to the first line, and maybe you'll understand why I'm having a problem parsing this. It says the tendrils lose their grip and I'm in control of myself. The weight becomes lighter. Sounds like you won. The first line, however, says I did a horrible thing. I did a horrible thing. Now the tendrils lose their grip. I'm in control and the weight becomes lighter. It makes me think, oh, well, okay. See, the stanza before it kind of alluded to this, and I must have skipped right over it. It says, say something or you'll fall apart. Take control of the situation. Heart's pumping. A brand new start. Accept the transformation. So it's not about coming to terms with the worst part, but just letting it take over. Because the song ends with lifeless eyes stare back at me, a glimpse with no reaction, dry lips that are not talking. Is anyone in there? So it seems like the sludge, the ink, this alien force inside of you that is your worst qualities has taken over the body. Now, it's not just tendrils coming from the ground. The venom suit has taken over the body, right? Um, but then the final lines are, you're turning your back on me, you're drifting further away from me. And I'm not sure what's going on here because there isn't a strong definition for the pronouns yet. You and me seem to get utilized in various fashions without really dictating who is speaking. So in the second verse, I had mentioned it says, I am facing the worst part of me, right? So me is the narrator. Um, but a few lines later, it says, say something or you'll fall apart. It seems to be someone speaking to themselves. So the you is still a narrator. Um, Later on, we have a return back to the first person. I did a horrible thing. I'm in control of myself. Lifeless eyes stare back at me. So, I mean, if we are to read this exactly how it states, then the narrator is turning their own back on themselves and drifting further away from themselves. And yeah, I'm not sure what perspective these last two lines are. The only thing I can think is that it is that specific idea of the narrator speaking to themselves and saying that they're choosing the worst parts over combating them. But, well, that's a bit not great, especially given the music video, which started out with these tendrils forming the body of a man and then coming together to form a tree, was it? I kind of checked out there at the end. Yeah, it's like a tree that ends up forming like a sphere around it. I mean, I guess that could be read in a negative sense of like the negativity inside. See, because I remember it as a tree, and I was like, oh, maybe it's a positivity, right? We've turned these things into something that bears life, right? We've transformed them. But maybe it literally is that we've allowed it to consume us. It started out as a tree, we thought it was going to be better, but instead it's blotting out everything and becoming our only periphery. So, yeah, I guess I should have just watched the music video better, and it would have prepared me more for the twist at the end of not combating the worst side of yourself. Well, I tend to enjoy a bit more positivity in my music, but I guess if that's the story they want to tell, they did a pretty good job of telling it. It is also interesting though that this is all paired inside of the bright, upbeat part of the song, right? So I think the first half of the track makes sense. We have this darkness emerging, it's trying to hold us back, trying to restrain us, and that would be the chaotic energy that we have at the beginning. Every time that we think that we've, found a new way to restrain this other side of ourselves, it throws a new wrench into the plan. That's the constant changes in the music. But the part where the music lightens up and becomes real chill is the part that he gives in. And I guess, I mean, that kind of makes sense on one side because it's the easier path, the path of least resistance. So it would be chiller in one sense, but I don't think I necessarily agree with the brightness of it. I think maybe I would have tried to go a bit more of a chill and relaxed, maybe reduce the complexity of the song, which they already did, but still keep the atmosphere. Maybe even dive into the atmosphere, and go into something a bit more of like a doom metal vibe, right? Simplicity with the weight of the atmosphere. Speaking of, I can't believe I forgot this, and I almost finished the video off without talking about it. You know, I mentioned at the beginning of the song is very mathcore, but can we talk about that opening riff being black metal? Tremolo picking with the note changing every, what, 2 or 4 notes, something like that. So it feels like this melodic flow, but honestly, it's like a bajillion attacks a second, with just a heavy emphasis on the texture of the attacks, the sonic assault, being paired interestingly with a very clean production that's more indicative of their mathcore roots here. And I just think it's a very interesting combination of sounds here, which kind of it cements the fact. I think it's funny because we were just talking about this earlier this week, that I wouldn't mind listening to black metal if it wasn't black metal, and I enjoyed what it was doing here. I think that the textural idea works here while providing that quasi foundational melody combination idea that we talked about in I think it was the Dodds Angel video. Um, and but pairing it with clean production, right? And seeing what that brought about, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was a very cool combination of sounds. So yeah, there's like reggae ska inspired gent at the end. There's mathcore stuff. There's black metal ideas in here, and then it's just wild. It's all over the place, and I really enjoy the contrasting elements throughout all this. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you thought about this track. If you enjoyed it or not, anything that stood out to you, anything that you'd like to add to the conversation, go ahead and drop those comments down below. Above the comment section, you can head into the description box. In there is all of the links for Monosphere. If you want to check out more of their stuff or pick up some merch or pre-order albums, I don't know if they have albums. I might be I might, I might be pushing stuff that they're not doing yet. I don't know. Anyways, I got links for all their stuff. If you're interested in more from Monosphere, go ahead and check that out in the description box. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for this week. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll have an album review. We're going to be looking at something. Oh, The Ocean, Pelagial. That's a band I've been meaning to get around to since I first heard them and just haven't. So it's going to be real interesting to check out a full album from them. Sunday we have the Patreon live stream as always. And then Monday we'll be doing Colors Week. We'll be looking at songs from bands who have a color in their name. Such as King Crimson or Black Crown Initiative or, I don't know, bands with colors in their name. You guys know what I'm talking about. Why do I gotta explain this? I'll be back Monday with that, though. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.